Welcome to Radical Truth to Power, the progressive news show with Let's BS Free. I am your host, Marlon, along with Tracy Carson. I have no idea what the rest of the crew is, one way or the other, but Tracy is here. Tracy is here. I told you, Javier done spoiled them so doggone much. They show up when they want to show up, but that's okay. We're going to keep the show going. Today's show is on the Plessy versus Ferguson, which I'm going to go ahead and tell you now. This is a part one of a two-part series. There's a lot to get into. Today's, I'm going to show the first four videos, which is the beginning to set up Plessy v. Ferguson and everything that went into up to when they went to the Supreme Court. Next Sunday, we'll do part two, where we'll tell you what happened while they was in the Supreme Court, what the decision was. Lord knows what the decision that they made, because I don't know what it is about the Supreme Court back then when they was just like, yeah, we're just going to blow smoke up your butt and get away with it. So, yeah, why make sense? So that... We're also going to go ahead and let you know that the second hour is kind of fully packed. We do have a Am I the A-hole, a Real or Not, a Mafia video of the week, which is Tracy, and a Foxy video of the week. So we kind of packed. How's everything going, Tracy?
It's been a busy weekend. Did not do any videos. Was supposed to do one yesterday. Got back from a rally. Closed my eyes. It was 7:00 when I woke up.
Wow.
Today, said no. Had a training to do today. So it's been a busy, productive, but it only gets better from here kind of weekend for me.
Well, that's good. Well, we went to my grandson's birthday party, went bowling.
How old is he?
7 now.
Oh,
7 years old. He acts like a really typical 7-year-old ball of energy running around at full speed. Like
you did at
but
7. Sure, okay, got it.
yeah, he's definitely 7. But
What, you want him to be 77?
nah, I like him the way he is. I wouldn't change anything about him. Let me see who's all. Anna is trying to come in, but there's something going on her end. I'm here for the 4-hour show, and which is not going to happen because it's Sunday. So no,
Yeah, we got to work tomorrow.
you know, I'm here for the 4-hour show and to remind Marlon about the injustice he did to Javier. LL, you about to be the first person to be kicked off this show with a permanent ban. Javier, fine. He'll tell you if you can find him. Parker is saying hello. Parker is also saying, does Marlon have a unlimited number of these white shirts? LOL. Sorry, it is just that Marlon's new radical truth to power formal attire. Yes, I've literally decided that I am going to change my attire for each show now to look a little more presentable. Nobody else has to. This is my decision to do so. So, but yeah. One of those things where I thought I was going to go back to my old format without literally going into my old format, because my older format was a shirt and tie. And then I came to the conclusion that my job don't even require that anymore. So why in the world am I going to sit here with a shirt and tie on for 3 hours when I know sometimes we get into some heated discussions? Now I'm the only one over here sweating my little heart out. No, but that's a little more presentable. Um, nah, LL, hey, you keep bringing up Javier, I won't have no choice in the matter. It'll be completely out of my hand, which is a lie. It's literally all in my hands, but you know. I've been listening to the House and the Senate for a while. It's completely out of our hands what the decision is. We just do the best we can with what we got. Well, without further ado, let's get this party started. All right, so with every series what we do, let's start from the beginning, which we're going to start from the beginning with also a better understanding of the 13th Amendment.
Today, we're talking about the case that solidified over half a century of Jim Crow laws and gave constitutional justification for the separate but equal doctrine that led to widespread segregation, the remnants of which are still visible throughout the country today. Fun! Alright, Plessy versus Ferguson. Let's jump back in time a bit so that we can have context for how Plessy v. Ferguson and the separate but equal doctrine came to be. So as you know, the Civil War happened, and it happened in the US from 1861 to 1864. As a result of the war, it was determined that slavery would be unconstitutional and abolished in the United States, and blacks would be given freedom and equality. This wasn't an easy passing of some laws and calling it a day, okay? The Civil War ended centuries of slave trade and slavery in the United States and literally divided the nation. So in order to reintegrate the states that had seceded and figure out what the hell to do with all the formerly enslaved people, there was a post-Civil War Reconstruction era that spanned from 1865 to 1877. And it was messy, okay? But during the Reconstruction era, 3 amendments were passed to the Constitution that altered equality in America. They were the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, also known as the Reconstruction Amendments. Let's go over what they say briefly because I think everyone should know what our Constitution and its amendments say, and most people don't. Alright? The 13th Amendment abolished slavery mostly. It says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. This, of course, was a huge step, though the exception for punishment for crime allowed a different form of slavery, one made up of prison labor from a prison industrial complex populated mainly by black prisoners, to flourish even after slavery was abolished. But that's a whole separate video and the subject of the book The New Jim Crow and its documentary 13th, both of which I highly recommend you read and watch.
Okay. So, hey, Anna.
Hello.
So we're right now in the reconstruction phase of it. We've already discussed that whole unless you are incarcerated during that time, that slavery is gone. But we've always also discussed that around that time was also the black laws that were the black codes that were used for any reason whatsoever to put blacks in jail. At a point in time, loitering, standing around, was against the law. And you would subsequently be put in jail. So, but that is the beginning. That's the 13th Amendment. You got anything, Tracy?
This country makes me sick. I know I keep saying that, but you hear about this. How convenient. We're going to make slavery legal, but then we're going to just tip in this little part about people in prison. And then what we'll do is we'll put black people in prisons so they can be slaves again. Oh, I can't. I cannot. We should stop using prison labor. We didn't, I heard somebody say this yesterday, and it took me a lot of time to think about it. But what she was saying was true. We didn't end slavery. We just declassified it. Because as long as we have that part of the 13th Amendment that says that prisoners can be used for low-cost labor, that's slavery. They're being used, they're being paid less than, 19 cents an hour? That's literal slavery. And I think that quote is so true. It's not abolished. We just desanitized it and called it something else.
Mm-hmm. I think you mean we sanitized it.
We sanitized it. Thank
Yeah.
you. We didn't desanitize it. We should desanitize it, but we didn't. Thank you for the
Mhm.
correction.
What you got, Anna?
Well, it's early yet, but I want to just say that I really appreciate Lisa Miller's the scope of her knowledge, and the fact that she comes at it first like a lawyer and gives you all the facts, but one of the things I wanted to look up, but I ran out of time because I had family over at Sunday, and was how far apart were the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments passed?
I don't know, but I can look it up when I play the next video.
If you could, yeah, I don't have a way to. That's my phone right there. So
Yep, I'll take care of it. So let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to go on to the 14th Amendment.
Okay, on to the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is actually pretty lengthy and includes 5 sections. We'll focus on Section 1 because it's the one that comes up very frequently in important Supreme Court cases about rights and protections. Section 1 of the 14th Amendment says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States. Nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Okay, so the first part grants citizenship to everyone born and naturalized in the US, including black folks, and bars states from passing laws that infringe on people's rights as citizens of the United States. Then there is the Due Process Clause and the Equal Protection Clause. The Due Process Clause says no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of the law. This requires states to ensure that their citizens receive due process, usually notice of some kind and a right to be heard before a neutral judge of some sort, before their life, liberty, or property are taken away. This clause is commonly used in lawsuits where citizens argue that a state law takes away their liberty or property but doesn't ensure that they receive full due process before doing so, for example. It's also the clause that creates a judicially recognized right to privacy. Privacy has been interpreted to be included under the umbrella of liberty protected by the 14th Amendment, and from that right to liberty and privacy comes all sorts of very famous cases that guaranteed the right to marry who you want, the right to use conception if you want, and get an abortion if you want, which is why the looming overturning of Roe v. Wade has spooked people because it could mean an unraveling of all the privacy protections that the Supreme Court has recognized come from the Due Process Clause of that 14th Amendment. All right. And then the last phrase of Section 1 is known as the Equal Protection Clause, and it says no state can deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. This was meant to require states to apply the laws equally to black and white people. However, it's also been interpreted differently throughout the years and figures prominently in very important civil rights cases like Brown v. Board of Education, Reed v. Reed, which established that it should also apply to gender discrimination, and many more cases. A full video is really needed to delve into the complexities of just the Equal Protection Clause alone, but that's a very basic overview.
Let me say this real quick. I have no idea why I waste my time, and I'm not saying waste my time when it comes to research. When I keep forgetting that we have Parker on the show, and Parker is like
we have our research.
we have built-in research. 13th Amendment was 1865, 14th Amendment was 1866, and the 15th Amendment was 1869.
Okay. Thank you, Parker.
Okay,
Appreciate
So they
that
share
is literally
each other.
saying January 9th, 1968 was the 14th Amendment. The 15th Amendment was February 13th, 1870.
No, Parker said the
Go back to the
13th
13th
Amendment was
Amendment.
1865, 14th was 1866.
December 6th, 1865. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, year.
That's why I said, December 6th is my birthday. And Georgia ratified the 13th Amendment on December 6th, making it law. And, that is a very worthy thing to celebrate. And there's that little loophole about prison, but it was a win.
There are different dates for when it was passed by Congress and different
Yes.
dates when it was
when it's
ratified.
ratified. Okay.
That was ratified. I know that one. So no, but that gives you a good idea of like look at how long they're going through.
Yeah. It just tells you that I'm just gonna say my opinion on this one.
Mhm.
It tells you they wasn't very forward thinking individuals. They was more reactionary type of people. They would put an amendment out, see what happens. Nope, that didn't work as good as we thought. Okay, let's put out another amendment. It may take us a year.
Marlon, I'm gonna have to disagree with you. It was intentional. They intentionally passed that 13th, especially that 13th
Oh, the
Amendment.
13th they passed, yes.
That
But
one-
that
No, but they
Quick.
put what I'm saying is they put that little prison clause in there.
Mm-hmm.
Then they turned around and said, okay, so what we gonna do? We're gonna make it illegal for black people to stand around or looter, and then we're gonna put them right back in jail. Then that way we can legally make them slaves. It was intentional. They knew exactly what they were doing.
With that one, yes.
I think the amendment, so many of us say we're free in 1868, not 1865. Oh, and hello. So I take it he's not going to come on the show.
Yes? No?
No,
Okay.
he's in the comment section.
But that's all right. We'll welcome him that way too.
Team.
We'll welcome him that way. Welcome,
Yeah,
welcome.
they were not stupid. They knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the 15th Amendment.
Then the 15th Amendment was the last of the Reconstruction Amendments, and it says the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. It was written to give previously enslaved people and their progeny the right to vote. But only the men, because it didn't include protection for gender. That wouldn't come until the 19th Amendment ratified over 50 years later in 1920. Okay, so those are the Reconstruction Amendments, and they fundamentally altered how legal protections were seen in the United States. Before, protection from discrimination was left up to the individual states. So these amendments acknowledge the federal government's ability to intervene in state matters where issues of due process and equal protection of the laws are involved. And the 13th Amendment, which outlawed slavery, went on to be interpreted to outlaw what are called the badges and incidents of slavery. Basically, treatment and mistreatment aimed at previously enslaved racial groups or populations, or laws that mimic the law of slavery. And I wanted to give you the context of these important amendments because it's part of our history, but also because two of them, the 13th and 14th Amendments, play a prominent role in Plessy versus Ferguson, which was one of the first Supreme Court cases that put the new amendments to the test.
All right.
Yep, they good with those little add-ons.
Mm-hmm.
They say start doing this thing for the missus, just popping in. Okay, well, like I said, welcome. Welcome. No.
Enjoy your vodka tonight.
Yeah. And then the Reconstruction ended in 1877 when the federal troops was pulled out of the South because President Rutherford B. Hayes made a compromise to get elected. She's gonna bring that up later on during the show where once the troops were pulled out of the southern states, we're gonna find our way back here to make y'all inferior again. And they came up with some doozies.
Yeah, because you notice how they said, oh, black people got the rights to vote. No, that wasn't until 1960.
8.
Thank you. I was like, I wanted to say 4 so bad.
65.
I was gonna say 5.
Yeah, I know it wasn't.
Sorry, I went to the 18 to the right
I'm like,
to vote
oh, no,
in the Constitution.
Because women's suffrage was for white women. That was not for black women who were not covered in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
And large numbers. I mean, there were some.
So when did poll taxes? When did these ridiculous tests? When did all of the hoops to jump through pop up?
Uh, if I had to guess, it probably was right around the time we was allowed to vote.
They're
Yep.
saying
Guess how many jelly beans are in the jar? Oh, you said two.
No, Tracy, you
I
have
know
to
I'm
see.
making it easier than it was.
It was really. There is I do have a video of that coming up. I just don't. I have to fit it into it. I actually have a schedule this year, and I have to fit that in, and find a way to format it because I not only do I have some videos of people taking the test, but I actually saw a website where they actually have the answer to the test. Like this is what they were supposed to do. And when you read the answer, it's like there was no way nobody was going to get this. There's absolutely no way no one
Yeah,
was
what
going to
is the
get.
meaning of life? And then, but here's my
No, it
thing.
was
What would
so
happen on the
stupid.
what,
Circle the third word in this phrase and circle the fifth word of the other phrase. And it would be like, okay, so are you telling me to circle the
the
third
third or
word
the
in this
fifth?
sentence, the whole sentence, or circle the third word in this phrase, which means this phrase, and phrase is the period, and so the third word, it
and you'd
was.
have 10 seconds to answer.
And here's my thing though. What would happen if somebody actually passed it? Were they allowed to vote? Nope. I can almost
No,
guarantee
they
it.
probably would allow them to vote
I don't
because
think they
what's
would
the
have
worst thing that can happen with
because
one out of 100 black people that pass the test? Then they can turn around and go, see, it's a fair test. They got through.
yeah,
You have
because
to let
they're
someone
not gonna
go
let
through.
that person vote. They'd be like, oh well, darn. You answered it right, but you took too long, or some.
They got to let some of us through. So we can't say that they're discriminating. They have to let some of us through. You know, it was the same thing, systemic racism, when we was just talking about, well, you see this black person go from poverty
Yeah, we can
to
all make
being
it.
a rich person. Like that, they have to let some of us go through to say, I have no idea what you're complaining about. If this person can do it, you people can do it.
And
You
also,
just don't want to, or you're not smart enough, or which
yeah,
I get
yep,
what smart enough to do with voting. But well, never mind. I just asked my own question, and it's 2024.
yep, where they put voting sites 50 miles away from where you live at. I think you have to stand in line for 8 hours.
Yeah, that probably ended around 1965 as well. We're talking as though there were any legitimacy to obstruction. I get what you're saying. I know, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I know.
And also the voter intimidations were
Now
very
that's true.
conservative. People would be scared to even attempt to stand in line to take that so-called test. Yes,
Yep, if you want to stay in
very
line, you
much
better not go vote.
so. Bingo, Marlon. Focus on the exception to distract to the
To
credit
Discredit.
the
discredit
whole
the
divide
whole.
and conquer. Yes, they have to let some of us in so you can say, "Look, come on."
We're not
If
racist.
they can
Not
do
us.
it,
No.
so
Now,
yeah,
sure,
that
you
if
can't drink at
one
the
person
same.
passes it, then we're gonna let you pass. Now, let you pass. I mean, let you pass. Let you vote and allow to vote. That's two different things.
Your house may not be there when you get home, but yeah, we'll let you vote.
Yeah, hey, we ain't stopping you from voting.
Or
You
your
can
vote
get through.
gets
You can
lost,
get through
or,
this.
Or your
And
legs
you can
might
get through
get
this
broke.
mob of people with bats in
I
their
know.
hands. get up there, sure. We'll let you vote. What's the problem?
We're not racist. We just don't like black people in certain places. That's it.
And yes, that's also true. These laws also serve the purpose of
That's
excluding
also true.
poor, uneducated white people. Yeah. Oh yeah. Um, I looked at an episode of it's an old law show, court show, and I like the way the guy talks. I can't remember his name, but the way
Perry
he
Mason.
delivers his lines.
Matlock.
Like, no, ain't that old. But in a way, he was like his son. He was representing somebody whose brother died by the hands of somebody that was a military doctor. And the military didn't want to pay out the insurance or anything like that because apparently it had something to do with military secrets would get by and everything like that. And one of the things that this guy said that stuck out so much to me was we always sit here and say that we care so much in the military when it comes to our children, when it comes to our kids. But that's not true. We don't care about the kids. We care about the poor kids. Because if you keep kids poor, then they really don't have but so many avenues. And it just so happened that one of those avenues is the military.
Yeah.
So you have to keep them at a certain level. You just have to. They're the feeding blocks to the military. So when the media always talk about caring for them kids, you don't really care about all kids because you don't care about the poor kids. So, sorry. Going on my little Thea's tangent since he's not here. I like to take some time just to keep him fresh in our mind. All right, here we come. The separate but equal. And just in case we never knew, I knew, but just in case nobody out there knew, who the heck was Jim Crow?
Okay, so the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment guarantees that everyone deserves equal protection under the laws. But it didn't say exactly what that looks like. And people really grasped onto that word equal. And states, especially in the South, decided that equality doesn't mean everyone has to play together nicely. So they created separate facilities for blacks and whites, saying that they were separate but they were equal. So they still squared with the 14th Amendment. These laws proliferated after the end of the Reconstruction era when federal troops pulled out of southern states, and those states started backtracking on laws meant to ensure equality. For example, in Louisiana, there was a racially integrated public school system in 1869, but by 1879, the Louisiana Constitution ended integrated schools and the government began defunding public education for black people. Black folks had begun gaining power and influence and pushing against racial norms in search of more freedoms, which obviously enraged whites everywhere, but especially in the South, and because of this, Southern lawmakers sought to separate the races and enforce more regulation and control. As a side note, I was curious where the name Jim Crow came from. This might be common knowledge, but I didn't know, so now I'm sharing. Turns out this white guy named Thomas Dartmouth Daddy Rice was a struggling actor who, according to legend at this point, happened upon a black person singing a song about a man named Jim Crow. And Daddy Rice took that song and turned it into a minstrel act in 1828, where he appeared on stage in blackface as Jim Crow, an exaggerated and highly stereotyped black minstrel character. He became known as the father of American minstrelsy, and throughout the 1800s, Jim Crow became a racial slur and then started being used to refer to laws that enforced segregation and discrimination against black Americans. One such law came into force in 1890 in Louisiana. It was called the Separate Car Act and required all railroads operating in the state to provide equal but separate accommodations for black and white passengers and prohibited passengers from entering accommodations other than those to which they had been assigned. And this law presented an opportunity to challenge the idea of these separate accommodations for blacks and whites.
Okay, so there you go. We're going to play by the rules without really playing by the rules. We can be separate from each other. You have equal accommodations. But we decide what exactly is equal. And just narrow the scope to, well, you have the same things that we have. We have schools, you have schools. Our schools have funding, your school have funding. Now, minus is nowhere near the same amount of funding the white schools have and black schools have. It's not even close to the same amount. But they're not going to talk about that. They're just going to say, hey, you're being funded. Separate but equal also means we have no problem for you to come into our establishment. You just can't come through the front door. There was a story of Frank Sinatra who changed a whole ruling. Who changed Sammy Davis Jr.'s life and a ruling of a very famous nightclub in Vegas in the 60s, where the Rat Pack was big then, huge in Vegas. Standing room only, everything else, Sammy Davis Jr., Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin,
Jerry Lewis.
I always keep forgetting that comedian's name. No, Jerry Lewis was never with the Rat Pack.
Yeah, he was.
By that time, Dean Martin had left
Jerry Lewis was definitely with the Rat Pack. He didn't perform with them as much, but he definitely was a Rat Packer. It was Dean Martin. It was Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Jerry Lewis, Sammy Davis Jr., and Tony Lofton.
Tony Lofton.
Yeah.
Okay. So as big as this group was, everybody knew him. You would never believe that Sammy Davis Jr. still had to walk it through the back door of the club. Frank Sinatra did not know this until Sammy had rode with him to the club one day. And they're all walking in, but Sammy detoured and started to walk through the back. And Frank looked at him like, where are you going? And he's like, well, I still, something to the effect of, hey, I'm still a black man. I still have to go through the pack. And Frank was like, come with me. And he walked in the front. Of course, nobody said nothing. And Frank Sinatra walked up to the owner and says, if he ever can be beside me at all times, as equal as we all are, you will never see our act in your club again. All that to say, even some of the most powerful black people in the 50s and 60s still had to go through segregation.
That I was wrong. His name is Peter Lawford. Peter Lawford.
That was the actor.
Yeah, okay. No, I went to Google and
Jerry Lewis is not one of them.
So
I didn't think so. I didn't think Jerry Lewis was one of the Rat Packs.
Yeah, but I thought he was, but I was wrong. It's Peter Lawford, Dean Martin, Frank Sinatra, Joey Bishop, Sammy Davis.
Joey Bishop is the comedian. Thank you.
Yeah, Joey Bishop. And for some reason, Angie Dickinson, but I don't know how she's included.
What?
But yeah, they got Angie Dickinson picture right there.
Oh, okay. I never knew there was a female Rat Packer, but
yeah, I'm like, Angie Dickinson?
I sent you a picture.
That's okay. The reason why Rutherford B. Hayes is one of the worst presidents, he made a decision to take troops out of the states who just 10 to 15 years before were a part of the Confederacy. He intentionally let black people in the South fend for themselves in order to gain political power and get elected president. He had to know that the consequences of that would be, but didn't care. Everyone doesn't get their own white savior to vouch for them.
Yeah.
So true. So very true. And look, let's be totally real. If Frank Sinatra wasn't as big as he was,
it would have been like,
you're not an actor. You're just okay, cool. So yeah.